welcome to UNKNOT. Tonight, we're going to cover something a little bit different than we've been doing on the show. Not different for the content that I typically put up. Typically, UNKNOT is a live call-in show where you can unwind complex thoughts and emotions and find clarity in real time. Now, that show and the purpose behind it will continue. But I dove down a rabbit hole this last week, and I've been having fun with it. So I thought I'd share with you guys because, of course, some of the things I'd said on my previous live streams, not the UNKNOT show, just previous live streams, have been about February 28th and an alignment then, and the potential that we would have some war and aggression because of the placement of Mars and Aries and all the things. And people keep messaging me because they're freaked out a little bit about what's going on in the world. Justifiably so. So I dove into the Vedic astrology, pulled all the charts for the US, for the Vedic charts, which is different than Western astrology. And I can explain that if you guys have questions later. But I pulled for the Orange Ones chart, I pulled US chart, and then did some transits moving forward from now until mainly April, because April's such a big month. But I went forward just to see long term if the intuitive hits that I've been getting and sharing with all of you are playing out in the charts. And they absolutely are. And I like Vedic because it's more of an ancient system. And I think it's more accurate, but I'm Mr. Andy. Before we get in, because I don't know that anybody is actually here yet, I want to see what your take is on all of this.
To give folks that may be new to my journey.
It's recording. Are we live?
Yeah.
It says we're live, but
right. And you're
live?
On TikTok and we're live here. It says live.
I'm not seeing myself on TikTok. Hold on. Sorry.
Okay. I got you there on TikTok.
I'm sure that we're where we're supposed to be. They changed I don't know if you noticed, they changed our dashboard.
Who did? The Restream or TikTok?
To you? It's different. It's different.
Yeah.
I'm in here.
If you're there, say hi and let us know. When you first said you were doing the Vedic and you sent me a very quick synopsis of your stuff, and then you said you were going to work on my stuff afterwards, and then you shot my stuff out, and I'm still going through the Astro Soul blueprint stuff, which was much more not complicated, but much more
it's different.
Not complicated.
It's just different.
Yeah. It's different. And my immediate response to you was that the Vedic stuff, although it is ancient, it resonated with me on a much quicker level and immediately. And the terms in which they were describing my journey seemed to make perfect sense, not only looking back, but looking where I am now, and then what's ahead to come.
Yeah.
So I think, from my perspective, as you explain why it is you think Vedic might be better, my first question for you is, what made you curious about it, and what really captured your attention and made you want to dive deeper?
Spirit. There's nothing. I mean, you know, I've been a student of Western astrology and even the sort of esoteric Book of Wisdom cosmology stuff, the older stuff, for my entire life. But I have looked at Vedic. I just never really fully understood it, studied it. So I started to play with the charts to try and understand. And I started with my own chart, right? Because business, I'm changing things around in business. And sure enough, that's in my chart. Then I was like, okay, I'm going to dive even deeper into this. And I went crazy. And then the stuff that was lining up, I went back to the 22nd of April, 2024, right? Astrology is really good when you want to go backwards to see what was in play. So I went back to the day I was hospitalized with my stage 4 lymphoma. And holy hell, it was in my chart. In fact, I pulled one today for one of my clients. We were in a private session and we've been working on certain things. And I was like, let me look and see if it's in your chart. And all of her stuff was in her chart. Like, it's there. It was destined to happen. I've, since doing yours, pulled 3 other charts and then pulled the United States, where we're at right now, moving forward, Trump's chart, and then the transits. So that's like, that was an amazing, fun time. And so I put it all together for tonight's show because I thought everyone keeps asking me, like, what's happening? What's going to happen? And as much as I like to share with you guys my own personal hits from spirit, I think when you have a system that can tell you what the energies are present and it confirms things that someone like me gets, it's even more powerful. Just saying.
Yeah.
So that's why I went there. But also because I'm making big changes. I went through and rebranded and repositioned my entire website and business. And when you take on 10 days of work like that, 12 days of work like that, like, you start to question, like, am I just being insane? And actually, that rebrand was in my chart. The need to do it was in my chart. So knowing A, that I'm following my intuition, B, that the energy's saying this isn't like time to fully go back out there, after cancer, it's time to really dial everything in. And that's in my chart. And the reason that it's there, because a cycle just ended, a major cycle just ended, which that cycle that my chart spoke to, my Vedic chart spoke to, literally outlined Colorado, what I dealt with there, when I left, when I sold my place, when I moved to Seattle, when I moved to Texas, all of the relationship stuff in between and the health stuff in between, the constant like battles and struggles. When you're in business for yourself, Andy, like, you question, am I crazy? Are these signs that I need to quit? Well, sometimes it's just the energy at play and it's not your fault. Like, you're working through what you can, but it's not you. It's part of, I guess, fate or the lessons that are presenting.
So I guess
we're at a time on this planet where we're all going through stuff that nobody wants to be going through. So to have a guide map, I think, is helpful, and it's also important.
I guess the question then becomes, how do I use this information, whether I'm looking back to help me look forward or looking at now? How do I use that to my advantage? How does it help me?
Well, you got your chart. How are you using it? Let me ask you that. The stuff that I sent you, which I pulled your chart specifically on certain dates, on your the things that you came in to do, to learn, and to give an eye to that, because you're getting ready for a transition, and you've got a retirement date set some years in the future. So looking at what happens when you end your career, what is your career in radio, which is fully in your chart.
Yeah, which is interesting because the chart the chart basically foretold or foretells the fact that this was made for me, that it's a great fit. But yet, when I first entered it back in the late 70s, I sort of fell into it. But I really didn't, I guess, based upon the Vedic astrology. And to the extent that it even goes, and I just sort of quickly skimmed the 20 pages, it even goes to the extent saying that the fact that I've got 2 jobs that fit me makes perfect sense, which I thought was, wow, why would that, fit so well?
So get this. In 2000, that's when I received the message that morning. I talked about in my book. I woke up and Spirit said, it's time to go. Right? You're moving. I had a dream 5 years prior that said, in 5 years, you're going to step onto this path and you're going to fulfill what you were called here to do. Well, I what the hell that meant? I'm like, yeah, cool, whatever. I got 5 years, whatever that means. 5 years later, 2000, I wake up. I'm living on my training facility, horse ranch, right? 10 acres, full barn, full horses in training. It's profitable. And I hear, it's time to go. You ready to go? And I'm like, what are we talking about? And they're like, remember the dream. It's time to go. I'm like, I have an entire barn out there full of horses. I had like 30 something horses out, in training, boarded, and then my own 8 horses. So, and I just invested all of the money from the sale of my boat for the most part into this facility, and it was thriving. It was full. Like, I had a waiting list. Why would I walk away from a business? And they said, we told you that you would be leaving. I'm like, what if I don't go? And they said, do you want to be a waitress for the rest of your life? And I'm like, that doesn't sound like fun. Why would I do that when I have this corporate career behind me? I have other things I could. Nope, we're not going to let that work because that's not your path, in other words. And they said, you're moving to Colorado. And I'm like, okay, I'm from California originally, right? And I was living in San Diego. I'm like, why would I move to Colorado? Why would I move to the mountains?
Going from the water, which you
None of
love,
this,
to the mountains.
right? I'm like, sight unseen. Why would I do this? Right?
Good question.
But when they said waitress, I was like, fine. You know what? Whatever you got for me, I need to take a couple days off after I wrap things up at the farm. I said, I'm going to do this because there was so much energy and clarity and calm behind it that I was like, I know this is coming from spirit. And I just had that feeling like you do not want to ignore this call. You do not want to ignore this call. So I sold everything in a matter of days. I packed up everything. I sold 6 of my 8 horses. I took 2 with me. And I told them, I will move if you can find me a place. And I thought, they cannot do this. Spirit cannot do this. If you can find me a place to rent with that I can have my horses in the backyard, a place for my dog and my daughter, no questions asked, under $500 a month. And I'm living in California thinking I haven't paid $500 a month except for when I rented a room somewhere in the 80s. Like, this is not happening. It's 2000. 3 phone calls, $450 a month on 2.5 acres. I ended up buying that property within 6 months once I moved, but I moved sight unseen. I looked in my chart the other night when I was sharing things with you, and I didn't share this with you because you weren't feeling good. I went back to 2000 to the exact time that I received that message. And it's in my chart. It's in my chart. Literally. Like, it's crazy. So it literally said that at that point, you know how we talk about the hero's journey? Any of you guys familiar with the hero's journey, right? Like, you have to answer the call. There comes a call from wherever, the universe, your life, there's a call. I got the call. And I answered the call. But it says in my chart that in 2000, that there was a transit, a cycle that ended and a new one began. And that was when I was to start working within my soul's calling, my chart, whatever, and step in and use the gifts that I was assigned at birth and came in with from previous lives. Now, if you had told me back then the things that are outlined in my chart, because apparently I have somewhat of a rare chart, right? My chart is not normal. I have what's called 3 mulas. That's the wisdom holder. That's the person who comes in with gifts from previous lifetimes. The sage, the teacher, the elder, the chief of wisdom and knowledge. I'm like, if you'd have told me that in 2000, I would have laughed at you and said, you're crazy. Reading that now, after I've been in my business and helping people for 26 years, I look back and I go, holy crap. Right?
So had you known that with that information back then, if you had access to the Vedic astrology, it wouldn't have been validation of what they were telling you. You would have sort of laughed at it.
I probably would have laughed at it because I'm a skeptic. Look, even though I'm a psychic, I've always been a skeptic. about people who call themselves psychics.
See, and at the same time,
I've met a lot of folks.
you've got obviously special skills, special talents, and your talents are at a level above the normal person, which I consider myself. I'm my overthinking got to the point going, okay, and we've talked about my Mr. Magoo complex. The way the Vedic placed my relationship, personal and well, my business relationships was so spot on. I thought to myself, if I had known this, would that have somehow changed my
I don't know if I would have. And here's where what I think is important. I think it's important to understand that what information we need when we need it becomes available at the right
yeah.
time. It isn't, and I think too, keep in mind the Chris Bledsoe thing, right? His visitation with the lady, she's saying in 2012 or 2019, I can't remember when he got that visitation. I think it was
I think it
2012.
was
She said
2012, yeah.
she would come and that new information, new knowledge would be available to the world when the Eye of the Sphinx and Regulus meets. Now he didn't have a date, but NASA came up with one because he shared that with them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that happens." Regulus is a fixed star in Vedic astrology. So why did I get all cranked up about Vedic astrology? I include some of the Vedic placements with the stars in my soul blueprint, but I really started to think about Regulus because it came so heavily placed when I did the January forecast, the yearly forecast. And then again, because in April, that's when that placement hits. NASA said it happens on Easter. And I've checked the alignments, and sure enough, it happens on Easter. So now I want to know, okay, tell me everything you know about Regulus. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. It's dancing with Saturn. What does Vedic astrology say about that? And what does Vedic astrology say about that date? And then later again in the month, where I think most of the activity is going to join for us, we'll see a lot more at the end of the month of April, not that placement. That placement, though, that event when that the lady was speaking about, that's going to open eyes. It's going to shake some stuff up too. Do you guys follow Chris Bledsoe? Let us know in the comments. I'd really like to know if you guys know who I'm talking about. He had a visitation. He had experiences with these beings, these orbs. Wrote a book called UFO of
Great book.
God. It's a good
Great
book.
book.
If you guys want to read it, it's a good book. And it's all true. It's been validated. He's had contact after his life was devastated because he did share about this and people didn't believe him back then. And he lived in like North Carolina. Like he's worked with every 3-letter agency on this planet, the Vatican. Like they all want to know what's going on and why will they talk to you and not us. One of the other things that he had learned from the lady, I think in 2019 is, and I've seen videos about this recently, when Israel and Iran, when you see the missiles flying between Israel and Iran, the orbs are going to show up. That's going to be us. He thinks the orbs are angels. I would agree that what he's talking about are, in fact, that's what's happening. And people are seeing them. They are seeing them. So I don't know. I like doing research. I like information that I can quickly simplify and digest down, especially when it has to do with the things that are happening on the planet right now. Because so many people are afraid. I'm not scared. I'm not happy about the stuff going on, but I'm not scared. And I want to be able to give information that makes everyone else feel at peace as
Right.
I am. I've seen videos, Andy. I'm sure you've seen them too. I'm sure you guys all have seen them. It's like, it's the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. So fatalistic and so catastrophizing. Like it's not the end of the world.
We won't go there, but I've read reports about prayer meetings at the Pentagon. So we'll just leave all that stuff alone. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Should we start there? Do you want me to start there as far as that actual placement? Where do you guys want me to start? Like I said, I broke down that placement. I broke down Trump's chart. I broke down March and April. I broke down the US chart, which is very different than the US Western astrology chart. The Vedic chart's fascinating. Fascinating.
And
And I think
since
much
you're a
more
deep diver,
accurate.
maybe you can quickly explain why you think it is that eventually Vedic got overrun by Western technology, not Western technology, but Western astrology, and that got more embraced than Vedic. Because Vedic, like I said, to me seems it resonates a lot clearer to me. Western
Well, even that stuff, if you look at the collective charts, right? And the Vedic cosmology. So um, you have to understand that there's different ages that happen, right? The one we're walking into right now is the return of the Shakti in Hinduism, not as a metaphor, but literally a cosmic cycle. So the Vedic tradition kind of describes it as alternating ages where there's Shiva energy, pure consciousness, masculine structure, and that dominates. But then you have the Shakti, which is creative power, feminine, dynamic, relational, that reasserts itself. For probably, I would say, over 2,000 years, right? We've been in an extreme Shiva dominant phase. That's the patriarchal structures. That's the hierarchical power models, right? The dominant space leadership. All of that is Shiva energy without Shakti to balance it. So it's masculine without feminine to balance it. Okay. Shiva without Shakti in Vedic cosmology is actually described as a corpse, powerful but inert.
That's a nice,
Not
that's a
surprising,
nice
right?
mental image right there.
Exactly. You're unable to create or sustain life. What are we having a problem with? Right?
Mhm.
Okay. So when you talk about the return of Shakti, or in other traditions that you guys may be more familiar with, the divine feminine, Sophia, the mother aspect, same as the Shakti, right? Coming and returning to rebalance what's been dangerously lopsided. That's the period we're in. Now, here's what's interesting about Vedic. And here's what makes Regulus and the Sphinx alignment on Easter even more kind of loaded, right? Than people realize. Regulus spent roughly 2,000 years in Leo, right? Leo, the sign of the lion, the sign of kings, of solar masculine power. Okay. That's the entire era of patriarchal dominance, 2,000 years. And it's encoded in the fixed stars. Because think about that. 2,000 years ago is when all of the religious dogma, that's when all that started, right? Kings, emperors, popes, pharaohs, all of that happened with Regulus and Leo. Okay. Regulus moved, and this is so cool. Regulus moved into Virgo in 2012. Virgo is the sign of the goddess in Vedic cosmology. Virgo is the sign of the sacred feminine, the keeper of wisdom and discernment, right? She's the virgin. And literally, not in like the diminished modern sense, but in the original sense, whole unto herself. That's what the virgin represents, right? Not some weird garbage that the Christianity kind of put it into. Whole unto herself, sovereign, and not defined by or dependent on masculine authority. So that fixed star of kings and thrones just spent the last 13 years crossing the threshold into the sign of the sacred feminine. And now it's aligning with the Sphinx, the guardian of mysteries, the keeper of the threshold between ages on Easter, the resurrection festival. Do you see why I get excited
Yeah.
about this?
So you've done a lot of research, and like you said, you've got multiple charts that you sort of laid out really quick. And the first thing I always do when I'm trying to put together a plan for the day, the first question I ask myself is, what do my folks need to hear first? So that's what I say to you. Of what you have in front of you, what do you think we need to know first? If you only do one thing today in our get together, what's the one thing we need to know and walk away with?
There's so much. You're just gonna like really. You're talking me the deep diver. Give you one thing. Hold on. I want to catch up in the
Okay.
chat. Uh, Harmageddon. Hello. Lillian. Hello. Hello. Harmageddon saying, which may have to do with the sacred feminine that Megan Boyce want to bring back. They don't want to bring it back. That's the thing. Here's the thing. Okay, you guys know I teach from Gnostic texts too, right? So from the Sophianic tradition or the Gnostic texts, right? Whether you're coming at it through Gnosticism, Kabbalah, the Shekinah, which is in Kabbalah, or you're coming at it from the Hindu traditions, right? The Trinity of the Hindu tradition, or even Marian tradition of Christianity, all of them describe the same archetype movement. Sophia, divine wisdom, she went into hiding. This is the story, right? She went into hiding, or she was driven into exile. That's more what I think it was. Okay. When the world could no longer hold her frequency. What did I just say? Why did she go into hiding or exile? Did you hear that part? The world couldn't hold her frequency.
So when you say it that way, does that mean her power was too much for us to handle? So she had to go into hiding until we were ready for her?
We pushed her out. Humanity pushed her out. And the prophecy across all the traditions is that she returns not through force, but through a shift in collective consciousness and readiness. So the people then start wanting her to come back. When enough people can hold and receive her frequency, that energy is available again, right?
Right.
So the deal with like all of this, the Kabbalistic tradition describes the Shekinah, the feminine presence of the divine. Okay, whether or not you knew that, I didn't know, so I'm sharing it with you. As the way they describe it, it's as having gone into exile with the destruction of the Temple of Jerusalem. Okay, the entire project of Tikkun Olam, repair of the world, is about creating the conditions of her return. The repair has to happen first, and then she comes back. Or her return is the repair. It depends on how you look at it, right? Can she have links to Lilith? Maybe, but I'm just telling you guys from my research to, pulling the charts. I want you guys to think in terms of what does it mean to you? I'm not here to tell you you have to believe what I'm telling you, go look it up in the charts because it's there in the Vedic charts. So what ends up happening when the Regulus and the Sphinx align on Easter, it's a Shekinah moment in Kabbalah. It's a moment where the collective field becomes receptive enough that the feminine wisdom that's been in hiding or been protected or been preserved or been waiting can begin flowing back into the world. That's the placement that's the day that Chris Bledsoe and his message from the lady, and she said, and I believe the lady is the divine feminine. He's got that inclination to believe that way too from the things that I've read from him and heard from him. She said that when that alignment happens, the eye of the Sphinx aligns to the star of Regulus, a new knowledge would be available. And what did I just get done saying? Something new has to happen. We have to be able to hold her frequency. We have to invite it. And then that divine wisdom can come back. The divine feminine can come back. It's been way out of whack on the other end of things.
So it gives us something to look forward to, the idea that we are finally ready for it, and we have Easter of this year to look forward to.
I think we've been begging for it. I know I've been praying for it.
Let's get back to the point. You've got a whole bunch of stuff in front of you that you want to tell us about everything, but you've got to use some discernment and begin somewhere. So what's the most important piece that you have sitting in front of you that you think we need to know?
So right now, if you look at the lens of the politics and geopolitical movements that's happening on the planet right now. And all of us are paying attention whether we like it or not, right? Something practical comes into play that's important for you guys all to understand. The fall of the false kings, the orange one, the patriarchal dominance model that he represents in its most extreme is facing off against destiny and fate with the stars. Saturn on Regulus, which happens towards the end of the month of April, creates a cosmic house cleaning, right? It strips the false king, right, out. So that's been lining up since 2012, but now it's reaching a visible tipping point. So, you know how I've talked about like the divine feminine, the matriarchy, those energies have to come into play and then things start to balance. That's what I think this shift is bringing. The new knowledge that the lady was referencing, I don't think it's like a document. I think it's like a box of wisdom, right? Sophia doesn't come and hand us like instruction manual. She just restores our capacity to know what we have forgotten. The veil lifts. That's literally what happens with that alignment. The veil lifts and there's truth that comes out about the feminine wisdom. That's impossible to
So
deny.
because we weren't ready for it back in the day, she took it with her to safeguard it, and now we're ready for it.
Well, her frequency was gone.
Right.
So even though it may have still been there, it just wasn't visible to us. Like we couldn't access it. It's a different frequency. Think of it in terms of it's a higher frequency. And when it's all masculine, that's a lower, denser, and the patriarchy is all fear-based leadership, very low frequency. There's no wisdom in it,
So with
right?
all this noise and confusion and
Mm-hmm.
chaos that's going on, what should we be focused in on?
How you can bring balance to your own life right now, how you can like invite wisdom from the higher realms or higher levels into your life, how you can balance nurturing and care in your own life. Where have you, because here's the thing with a lot of women that are high achievers like me, or they're entrepreneurs, or they're just the head of household, single moms. We have had to literally take on masculine energy to operate in corporate, in the workplace. To get anywhere, we've had to take on so much masculine energy that we actually put our own feminine energy and wisdom and knowledge in a box and hid it. So where have you done that? Recognize that and start letting it out, letting it come to the fore, because the energy is supported. Even before that alignment, the energy's already been rolling and moving and aligning. If you think about 2012, it started happening in 2012. See, a lot of people thought 2012 was going to be like, they remember when everyone was like, 2000 was the end of the world, and then 2012, oh, it's the end of the Mayan calendar. They just didn't understand what was actually happening and what was possible. So now we have to look at, okay, where have I shut down my creativity? Where have I shut down my ability to give and receive love? Where have I shut down my nurturing in lieu of just protection and defense and all of those things? Yeah, Pat saying Y2K. Yep. Everyone thought it was over then. It's
It's
crazy.
interesting, and I'm just comparing and contrasting the Astro Soul blueprint with the Vedic, and I'm still going through both. That in the Vedic's case, it posits or frames my circumstances in not a much more positive light, but in a light that makes sense for me, that resonates for me. And one of the great examples is my personal relationship of 43 plus years, where I was one half of a partnership, and then literally overnight, which according to the transit made perfect sense when it happened, I became one half of a partnership. And it's not
Okay, part of that. you have to understand the difference between the soul blueprint and the way that I pull those in a more general way for your soul path and the energies at play versus the way I wrote your Vedic stuff.
And what it did for me
It
was
was determined by what I was actually looking for in your chart. That's the biggest difference you're going to find between systems is how are you looking at it? What questions are you asking? What are you trying to dig out of it? That's the difference.
And there was the way they positioned it from the perspective of I was going from one half of a partnership now to discover my full being. And that's what it was. It wasn't the end.
You do realize, like, I'm the one that pulled your chart. So they is me.
So, but what I'm saying is, and you're right, the Astro Soul Blueprint, it said that in a different way, and it tossed in more of my past lives and about being a monk and maybe a quiet leader who liked to help people behind the scenes and recognize and see people succeed. And I got my pleasure from doing that. And there's some of that in the Vedic stuff, but it's much more.
The focus is different. Because this is full Vedic. Like what I just gave you and what I'm talking about with the alignments of the Regulus in the United States and the orange one and everything that's happening right now, it's solely Vedic. You have to understand with the software I created, it's Western and it's an older form of cosmology that blends different traditions that is more esoteric. It's not just one system. The system that you just got, it does speak differently because it's based on one system of planets, one system, and how are they aligning and how are they transiting. And then it always depends, and this is true with any astrology forecast, what is the question you're asking? What is the information you're trying to pull out? Because equally, I could take the dates that I was checking up against, the years that I was checking up against, and change the focus from loss of partner to a health issue, and the reading's going to change.
Right. But the interesting part, which you already touched upon when you were looking and going back and looking at your stuff, the year, let's say the year in which I left the islands, it was February 14th, 1986. When you look at that and then you pulled up the Vedic stuff, it all made perfect sense in the way it was laid out, the whys.
Astrology a lot of times better when you're looking back instead of looking forward, but there is a way to forecast looking forward that is not as specific as when you're looking back. You know, and this is true of any astrology reading. Always easier to look back and see the planets at play in context to the events that happened to understand them on a deeper level.
And that is
then looking forward, and you don't know the context.
But you're right. In both instances, the fact that I can look back at that date because you're the one that entered it, and I thought that was one of my pivotal dates because I'd grown up in the islands, never left. And in '86, that's when I made the big leap and moved to the mainland. It gave me context because I'd never thought about any of those things that Vedic explained why that made perfect sense for me to do it then and there.
Your soul was calling you forward. Just like in 2000, I got the call from Spirit, who already knew in 1995 when I had the first dream, the second 5 years you're moving to Colorado. And I was like, why would I move to Colorado? Like, that's funny. Not going to happen. And I ignored it until 5 years later when I woke up and was like, you're moving now. Are you ready to go? It's time to step in. So literally, even in that 5 year period, when I look at it, so much unfolded in that 5 years. Not good stuff either. There were many challenges. Looking back, I understand why those challenges were there and how they were setting me up for the rest of my life in service to other people, in delivering the gifts that I have and the wisdom that I have and the way that I deliver it. You know, it's a fascinating deal. But yeah.
So fascinate us some more on the stuff you discovered about what you think is ahead for us.
So this is stuff that you guys can all relate to, right? The US Vedic chart, okay, slightly different in the way that we look at, because the planets change, right? America, when I pull America's chart, Sagittarius rising gives the US its expansionist drive, right? And missionary zeal. Its belief in manifest destiny and exceptionalism. These are all true things. Right. It's in the chart. The ruling planet is Jupiter in the Vedic, which governs wealth, law, philosophy, and religion. America is wise, right? I don't want to say is wise, but America, its entire self-concept is built around idealism, prosperity, and spreading its worldview. True or not true? Can you guys see that about US?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we think we're all that, and we want to tell everybody about it, and we want them to be like us.
And that's basically what it talks about in the US chart. Now, currently, the US is running through its Saturn Mahadasha, which began in the early 2000s and runs for a 19-year cycle. Okay. Saturn rules the second and third houses in the Sagittarius rising chart. So it rules money, values, communication, and courage. Okay. Saturn Mahadasha for the US means an extended reckoning with financial systems, national values, and the hard work of restructuring. What are we going through right now?
We're going through it all.
This is not an easy cycle of expansion. This is a cycle of accountability. True or not true? Because that's what the chart says. I can't hear you.
Yeah.
For some reason, you're
No,
muted.
because I was coughing. I didn't want you guys to hear it. It's true if we could find anybody that's in a leadership position that wanted to be held accountable. It is a time in which, you're right, it is a time in which we as people are looking for our leaders to be held accountable for the promises they have made and have not kept.
Amen.
So I firmly believe that. That's exactly where we are, and this is exactly where we're supposed to be. So how do we make it come true?
Okay, well, hold on. There's more that I want to share with you, because the orange one's chart aligns to the US chart, right? No joke. Hold on. I got to pull up his chart, because the way it plays together, it fascinates the living hell
let me
out
pause
of me.
here for a second and take this in. So are you trying to tell me that he is actually gonna accept responsibility or accountability for something that...
Oh no, I didn't say anything about him being accountable. When did I say that?
No, I'm just saying you looked at this. You were saying his chart mirrors the USA chart, which is in an account.
Harmageddon, I take massive offense to that statement. Harmageddon is saying that, to be fair, Sag has no depth.
What?
They can talk philosophically without coming to any conclusion. Like, you know, I'm a Sag, right? Well, what the hell's that? Like that? No, I don't know that about Sages, because that's not true. Sag is the truth seeker of the zodiac. Like, they do go deep, and it isn't that it's without any conclusion. If that were the case, I wouldn't have gotten anywhere in my 26-year career helping other people, right? So no, that I can't agree with that one at all. And I don't like to stereotype any one sign, because everybody has a positive and has a negative, right? Okay, so let's get back to it. The orange one's chart and the US chart are deeply intertwined, okay? They're both running heavy 8th house energy, both under Saturn pressure, and both with Jupiter providing a little bit of a protective buffer that prevents a full collapse, okay? But it doesn't prevent significant strain. So think of it in terms of like the country and the leader of the country are in the same karmic current simultaneously. And it's not coincidental from a Vedic perspective. It speaks to the collective lessons playing out in this weird political vehicle. Okay.
Right.
What's happening right now is the pressure that precedes transformation. It's not the final word, it comes before the transformation. There's a lot of hope. And I think most people don't understand. Absolutely, there's hope. The Regulus alignment for both the US and for the orange one actually brings about a testing and sort of a sifting through of leaders. Remember, I said Regulus, it comes around and looks at how are you handling the leadership that you've been given? And if you have not been handling it well, it is taken from you. Regulus gives, Regulus takes. So, do I think that he's going to be removed from power? Not necessarily, but there's going to be legal stuff all over his. And we're already seeing it lining up kind of that way,
Yep.
right? So, you've got legal trouble. The US is going to have legal trouble. And guess what? The other countries that used to be close and allied with us are questioning every move we make. Is it lawful on the international stage or is it not? They're questioning us. So whatever the US is going through, you can bet that Trump's chart's bound right in there with it.
So is it possible from what you have seen, and I know I'm asking you to look down the road maybe a little too far, is it possible that we end up hanging with just us and BB and everybody else against us? It doesn't play out that way.
There will be a time, I think, of reckoning that way. You know, like I said in the hidden wisdom forecast for the month of March, by the end of this month, those two paths are going to be split because Trump only cares about himself and he's not going to have the support of the American people or the American government.
Okay. That gives me hope. Yeah.
So just understand, like, they're literally, like, Regulus in his charts specifically, okay, it is going to wreak havoc on him. He is with Mars on his rising in Leo. He's inclined towards aggression and retribution. Okay. Rahu, conjunct the sun in his 10th house, hungers for dominance. Right. But those are the very qualities Regulus warns against. And they're all prominent in his chart. They're also prominent in the US chart. So something has to shift because when Saturn, the great karmic enforcer, the planet of accountability and consequence, moves over Regulus in April, it literally is the moment where that bill is due karmically gets delivered. Right? Okay. It's not like it's delivered and he has to pay right in this moment. It's like now the collectors are after you, ringing your phone off the hook all the time. So for him personally, this is going to be a really significant time where his position legally is fully weakened. There's a lot of volatility that gets exposed throughout his chart. I just don't think he's going to be standing the same way. There's a lot of, like, from a practical standpoint, there's a lot of court activity. There's pushback against his executive power. There's foreign allies pushing against what he's doing. There's financial institutions that make moves that can't be easily dismissed, right? Like all of these tests coming from every angle. His age and his need to always be right and be king shit, I just don't think it can stand up to all of that.
I would agree, even without looking at the Vedic astrology, just because, and I think your idea of the split between him and Bibi, because they're both malignant narcissists, and each one has to get total credit for whatever victory that happens. So, when they talk about, to use as an example, I won't get political really quick, but to use it as an example, when Trump was asked the other day about maybe the Israelis goaded us into starting the war, he flipped the script because he wanted to be the guy that's in control. He goes, no, I think I goaded Israel into making the first step, but I took it instead. He had to be the one, not Bibi. And eventually that's going to cause a rift between the two.
Lillian's asking, how can a country shift with the energy of the orange one, like everyone focused on self-love to raise the vibration? I don't think it's going to be like that. Potentially, that energy could be there. Let me just put it this way: regardless of him being the president and being a bully and hyper dominant, when Regulus and the Sphinx align, it's never happened. We don't have precedent for it. So I do think that whatever energy we shift into, it's going to be miraculous on so many levels that even he and his energy can't overtake it. So if you think like new knowledge available, if everyone at one time awakens and the blinders drop away, that all the lies we've been told that, throughout our whole life, throughout the ages for over 2,000 years, if that all goes away and we're all like, oh my God, it was all a lie. It doesn't matter what he does. People are going to come at it from a very different place, and people will be changed internally from that knowledge and that understanding and that energy. I don't think it's going to be like we all just have to focus. I actually think the energy shifts enough. It raises the frequency, it raises the vibration. And then if we can hold that and grow that, which I know that we can, it's going to change things in crazy ways that we can't predict. Like I literally cannot predict how this is going to go because we have no precedent. I don't think it's going to be an overnight shift. I think it's going to continually, gradually shift. The one thing I will say, to be fair, as I move forward in the Vedic charts, we still have turmoil throughout 2026. So that confirmed the stuff I was getting intuitively. 2027 is still a time of not as many systems failing, but now we're starting to replace systems, right? Things don't really level out in a solid way where we feel like we can breathe and it's way better until 2028.
And once again, that was something that you were talking about even before you cracked into the Vedic astrology. You were talking about 2028 and being us coming out the other side and finally beginning the recuperative and rebuilding process after the deconstruction.
Yeah.
And on the macro level, to what Lillian was sort of referring to, a lot of countries across the globe have left us behind. They've ignored the energy of the orange one and decided to make deals with other countries that think like they do and move forward with positive intentions. So you're right. There are folks that are not paying attention to his negative energy, and they've chosen to move on without him, and that's isolating us, which is going to hurt us, not orange top.
Yeah. So she's saying that, so the energy will shift when a lot of people are awakened. Did I understand that correctly with my Dutch brain? Yes, you did. But here's the thing. We are used to, because the energy's been so densely masculine and so ruled by the patriarchal energies, with wisdom removed. When that wisdom returns, right, I do think that this will be an inner knowing. And that automatically wakes people up. Some people are going to reject it because it goes against everything. Think about, and I know, Lillian, you've been through it. Like anyone who's been through a dark night of the soul, when you go through it, everything that you believed gets stripped away to nothing. Like you end up in a void where it's like, everything I thought was real is not real. Everything I believed is not true. Like it gets stripped and you are left like a puddle. So that initial understanding or awakening is not going to be an easy thing. People are going to be like, oh my God, what does this mean? And because we're so ego based in the patriarchal dominance of that energy, it's going to take people some time. And I hope people can handle it without losing it. Some people will lose it. He's one of them.
Yeah. And I think to your point, it took us a while to get here. It's going to take us a while to get out.
Yeah.
And we need to be patient and persistent and understand that the influence of the fast food culture we live in and sort of push that aside and focus in on what we need to get the job done.
Right. I mean, the exciting part about all of this right now for me is just seeing this isn't happening. Because, see, as all these things have unfolded the last year, 13 months, 14 months, as all of it's unfolded, everybody's just been in, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Oh my God, we're going to hell. Okay, well, you know what? If you look in the charts, it was all pre-written. The energies are there to allow it to happen, which means it's not wrong that it's happening, I guess I'm going to say. Like, stop fighting up against it. The energy is going to do what it's going to do. I'm not saying that you should agree with everything that's happening. Of course, those of us who have heart are looking at all of this and going, this is wrong. This is so wrong. But this is the important part. It was foretold. All of the prophecies, like I told you guys at the beginning of the show, all of the prophecies, whether it was Hindu, Kabbalah, astrology, the Gnostic text, Christianity, all of the prophecies said this time was coming. Who the players were going to be that were going to act during this time, the false kings, we didn't know back then. We know now. So we shouldn't be surprised, nor should we be shocked, nor should we be afraid.
Yeah.
If
So
that's the most important part of this, don't be scared.
rather than having an office of religion, which they currently have in the White House, maybe they should go back to the days of Reagan where Nancy had a presidential astrologer that they consulted back in the day.
I mean, you would have to have someone in there that's willing to listen to the advice and not just, toot their own horn.
Right.
Is part of the thing.
I think that they are the king of all kings, and I know
the thing that excites me the most, because I've seen so many posts and so many comments on social media about, like, is there ever going to be any accountability? The answer is yes, but the wheels of justice move slowly. The energy is present to hold those feet accountable. We've got, just when I did my monthly forecast in Hidden Wisdom for March, multiple whistleblower testimonies coming out throughout this month, closer to the end of the month after Mercury goes direct. And then into the month of April, it's the same thing. This is the year of the whistleblower. In more than any other time, it is the individuals that are like, this is wrong, and I'm going to speak out regardless of what happens to me. I'm going to leave my job because what they're asking me to do is not legal. It's not ethical. It's wrong. Like, this time that we're in right now, we are seeing more brave individuals stand up and go up against the people in Congress and in Senate that are afraid to be outed because they've got secrets. See, when you got secrets, you got to go along with whatever's put in front of you, which kind of sucks. But
and that you're right, especially since most of the whistleblowers that we are seeing and the ones that are testifying in front of Congress come with receipts. They have the documentation to make their case. A lot of times whistleblowers just have allegations, and if whoever were their bosses are able to, delete things or shred things, it's hard to find. These whistleblowers are, first of all, you're right. They are widely respected. They're not disgruntled employees, which most of the time the organizations will say, "Oh no, they're just disgruntled employees."
I don't have
These
anything
people,
to gain.
yeah, these people have made their careers out of serving us, and they see the wrongs that are being done, and they're giving up their careers to let us know that stuff is going south.
Right. I mean, how many lawyers right now and human rights organizations are working for the immigrants for free? There's a ton of them.
Yeah. Too many to name, probably.
But seriously,
Yeah.
I mean, that makes my heart sing. And see, we don't focus on those things. We focus on what's wrong. So the other lesson I think that we all need to be learning right now in just talking about, destiny, fate, astrology, what's going on geopolitically. Literally, the lesson that we need to learn and really remember is that if you focus on a problem, the problem gets bigger. If you focus on being part of the solution, things get solved. You decide, what do you want to focus on? You can either be a victim of what's happening, or you can be a change maker in the midst of what's happening. My question for all of you is, where are you sitting right now?
Right.
And every little action becomes a change maker, whether that means you go vote, you share other people's posts who are outing all of the stuff that's going on from the independent journalists, or people making videos about it, or you're out there protesting, or there's so many things, or, you're doing something nice for someone quietly, not for kudos, just because you want to be of service.
It was heartening yesterday as I was watching the coverage of the Texas primary, primarily on the MS Now, I think is what I was watching, to see so many young people standing in line wanting to cast their votes for the very first time because they had been mobilized and they've been energized by the process and they wanted to be involved. That was so heartening to see those folks standing in line yesterday.
I mean, from a personal perspective, let's get personal, shall we? From a personal perspective, just the people's charts that I have looked at over the last few days, and pulling all of this information for all of you guys. And really, like I pulled Andy's, I'm working with someone who is starting a consulting business. So we were looking at her chart to see how viable it is, because, when you go to start a business, it's scary, especially if you've been in a job your entire life, a career your entire life, and now you've got to go hustle on your own. So her chart was like, oh yeah, you're good. The time for her to be under other people in an organization versus going out on her own, the delineation mark that says, okay, no more, she's in it right now. And she's either going to leave that career, or that career is going to leave her. Right? Sometimes we get forced out of things and we think, oh my God, this is happening to me. No, it's happening for you.
Right.
It is happening for you. It was a great training ground. And now it's time to take those skills and go apply them someplace else. And then you get to determine. That's why I love working with people who are high achievers like me, because we get ideas, we solve problems, and then we go out and we fix things. It takes a certain kind of ability to face risk on a big level to do those things. Everybody's chart's slightly different. So on a personal level, you got to know, what are your strengths? What are you called to do? And then follow through with that, regardless of what people said. I just did a interview with a magazine today, and one of the questions they asked me was, do you ever regret not working for somebody else, working for yourself? Right? It was an interesting question, and I was like, do you ever have moments where you wonder what it would be like to work for someone else? And I'm like, absolutely. I've had those moments a lot since getting sick and having to start to rebuild my company, my business, my clientele. I've had that thought a lot, like, should I just go get a job? I was telling Andy multiple times, I was like, should I just get a job? Just go back to corporate? Here's reality. I'm not built for corporate. I'm a rule breaker, and I don't know, what do you call it? Yeah. I'm the one that cuts the path. I'm not one that follows somebody's path.
You are the flame that goes first. Others find courage in your footsteps.
Yeah.
That describes you. That's out of the Astro Soul Blueprint. That's exactly who you are. And
so if I were to do it, right, I'm a rebel. It's not even a rebel, because my Vedic astrology, literally, it said it's very rare, like the placements, to have 3 mulas in somebody's birth chart, their natal chart. that's the sign of the wisdom keeper. It's the sign of the elder. It's someone who dispenses that wisdom, who can take information, all the stuff that I do, take information, boil it down, deliver it to the masses in such a way y'all can understand it. Now, I have, like, I wrote a Substack last week about how some of the leaders in the personal development industry and the spiritual development industry, they're not who they appear to be. And I've fought with that my entire career. I've talked to Andy about it multiple times. I'm like, these people that are leading this industry, that are making millions and millions of dollars and have millions of followers, that have no integrity, if you know who they are in the background, why are they getting propped up? That's always been my cry. And I have felt intuitively that time was coming to an end. They too will fall. And funny enough, the Epstein files get released and they started to fall. In the next few years, it's going to be the people, according to the Vedic astrology charts globally, the people that rise up are the ones that have integrity, that have values, that aim to deliver for other people in a form of service, not because they want to rule over people and they want to feed their egos. And that makes me so happy. I won't have to struggle with it anymore. Like, there's those of us that will rise to the top quickly because we're being authentic, because we're being real, and because we came here to serve. And it's time for that energy with the divine wisdom will finally be able to be heard. Up until now, we haven't been getting divine wisdom from those leaders in personal development, spiritual development. You know what we've been getting? The dominant freaking patriarchy messages, the motivational hype. That's the energy we've been under. And that's what people gravitated towards, because that was all of it. But now people are going to be able to hear and hold new information.
It's the cult of personality, and that's now beginning to wear very thin. People are looking for reality and realism.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I often joke with you when we talk about these issues that, and I said this to you, I don't know how many different times, we have finally caught up with you, because we talk about this philosophically. Why are all these people out there that don't really do anything for anybody? Why are they the successful ones? Well, because you got to separate the wheat from the chaff, and eventually the people find the right people like you. And it's just, you got to be persistent and hang long enough for them to find you.
Well, and I mean, thank you, Mr. Benjamin. I'm happy to hear it too. But like, Andy's not saying this because I sit there and I have him toot my horn. We don't have those conversations. It's always in the light of, is this what I'm supposed to do? That's part of why I pulled my chart, right? Because I was rebranding, repositioning, and I pulled my Vedic chart because I'm like, let's see what the Vedic says about this time I'm in. Should I just think about retiring now and calling it good? After what I went through with the cancer and the radiation, the chemo, and now I'm trying to get my body back, get my business moving again. I'm like, maybe it's just time to do something else for the last part of my career. That's what I was thinking. But I know my numerology and I know my Western chart, and I know, because I've projected out my transits, that there's nothing about a quiet exit my career until much later. In fact, at this time, 59 years old, that's when my chart lightens up and livens up. And then it, like, I'm on the ascension instead of just the struggle path. In fact, and I'm not going to say any names, I was reading someone else's chart today that I was on a call with about business for her. And her chart was like, yeah, the second half of your life is where you become successful. I think we don't think about that. We think everything has to be linear, right? Like, you're successful out of college and then you make all your money. And that's not what happens for everybody.
It's supposed to be a straight line. It's supposed to be simple.
And you know what? All the years that I did readings for people and they asked about relationships are the same way. Some people will go through really tumultuous relationships in the beginning of their lives, and then they hit their 60s and they find a new partner, and all of a sudden that's the partner, that's their life partner, that's who they're the happiest they've ever been. It doesn't happen until their 60s. We just have this idea, if it doesn't happen at the front end of our lives, it's never going to happen. It's just not the way that life works, right?
Yeah. And everybody's journey and path is unique.
It is.
And, and that's the thing. You can't compare yourself and your journey to anybody else's, because your circumstances and your path, like I've discovered looking at the Vedic, it is totally your story.
Literally, Andy's chart supports him having 2 jobs, a full-time job and a side gig at his age. Most people, and me as a high performance coach, I've talked to him a lot about, like, you gotta balance out more. The more I look at his chart in reality, yes, there are places where he needs to learn how to relax. His body's telling him that this week.
Yep.
But his chart actually supports and encourages 2 jobs.
Because and this is the important part, though, because the jobs that I have, both of them fulfill a need for me and for the people I serve. It's not because I'm making more money. It's because I'm fulfilling my purpose. So it made perfect sense. But you're right. That's one of the first things that bounced off the page for me going, huh? They're saying it makes total sense for me to have 2 jobs.
Where most people, how old are you?
Me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to be 67 in August of this year.
Right. So you look at someone who's 67, your initial thought is like, why are you working so hard at your age? Like, shouldn't you be slowing down? Well, not everybody's supposed to do the same thing. So when we do these like, why I don't like to stereotype, some people literally are meant to be productive and be in the role of service their entire life. I honestly don't think I'll probably stop working until I'm in my 80s. So I still got 20 something years to go.
Yeah.
Right.
And plus you enjoy what you're doing. And that's the passion. That's part of it. As long as you enjoy what you're doing.
I almost do it from this role. Yeah. Like, I will do it from the standpoint of overseeing others, and being the elder in the room and bringing up a whole new crew.
Yeah.
But
to mentor people and bring them along so that the legacy can continue. Yeah.
And I think we all need to understand that for ourselves. Like, okay, so if the time we're in right now, even though it's shaky and it's uncomfortable and systems are falling apart and nothing is as we want it to be, and we're at war for stupid reasons, and we don't like it, we want it to end now because we don't like to be uncomfortable, here's reality. It's meant to happen right now. It's meant to happen. If you can accept that and not be in fear, you're going to go through this time in a more powerful way. Additionally, if you learn, and y'all can reach out to me and set a session if you want me to look at it for you, or go find it on your own. Regardless, if you can learn about yourself, your calling, your energy, how this stuff is hitting you right now, because we are in such an unprecedented time in history, not this year, history. There's nothing we can compare this to. We're in such an unprecedented time. The reality is we all came for this time. We all were born on this planet to be here at this very pivotal change time. After 2,000 years of just the patriarchy, just the masculine, the feminine's returning, and we all decided to be here at that turning.
And when you begin with that premise, that changes your perspective, because most people would say, I'm through some quirk of fate, I was born here and now. It's like, but when you say, no, you chose the time to be here. Therefore, there's some reason that you're here at this time in this place. Your mission is to figure it out.
And we might as well have some fun with it.
Yeah. And the Vedic astrology, the most important thing of the halfway through the 20 pages that I've read so far is it framed things for me nicely. Yeah. And that a better understanding of, because you and I have talked about my Mr. Magoo complex, where most of my life I was just very happy with whatever else sort of fell in my path, and I was okay. But the perspective that the Vedic astrology gave me put it into better context and made me better understand that, you know what, I wasn't just sort of walking through, I was making choices, but I wasn't acknowledging them and owning them.
But don't
Now,
weren't we programmed from a very young age to just plow through life and get one thing done after another thing done after another thing done after another thing done, never slowing down long enough to A, know how we feel about things, know what we think about things, and then being present enough to consciously choose those things that we're doing, being, and having. We just assumed we just got to keep plowing through, and I think that is a big problem with that whole dominant patriarchal energy, masculine energy, right? The wisdom had left the building for 2,000 years. The fact that it's coming back, because I don't know how many times I've thought, are people that stupid? And I'm not saying that to be rude or mean. I'm serious. There have been times when I'm like, people believe in the craziest things. Are they that stupid? And then I remember wisdom's been missing.
yeah, we started to live life by rote.
Yes, default mode.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that just became, uh, and we're beginning to awaken and come out of that, and it's amazing once we all begin to realize that there's still a lot more out there. So it's cool, but
And
that's
I think that we need to hold that level of hope right now and anticipation and expectation that we have enough messages coming from different sources. I mean, some dude since 2012, some random dude out fishing with his friends happens coincidentally to come upon this strange phenomena. And then he gets lifted up and taken all these places, missing for hours, physically taken. And then now he's got all of these interactions with the orbs and messages with the lady and investigations with the NASA and the CIA and the FBI and every three-letter agency, because they're like, oh no, we believe you. We don't know why it won't talk to us. It won't talk to you because you're living under the wrong paradigm.
yeah.
That's
That
why.
the Chris Bledsoe story is astonishing because you're right. Every governmental agency of any note has, entrusted him and engaged him because they know of what he speaks is the truth.
But remember, that's now. In the beginnings, the first several years of him having that experience, he got kicked out of his church. He got pushed
Yeah.
out of his entire community.
They had to move the house they went in. They moved into a trailer. Yeah, he and the family were outcast. And to their credit, they hung together as a family and got through it all.
But it wasn't happy, happy. He
No,
talks about that in his book and in his interviews. It wasn't a happy thing. So, like those of you who are going through something right now, or you've been going through a cycle for a while, and you're like, when's it going to be my turn to have and to be happy? He had to go through his own. I've had to go through multiple things on my own. There's cycles that we go through, and I want you guys to understand right now what we're going through here in the US and across the world with all of this stupid war stuff. It's a cycle, but it's a cycle that's coming to an end. So first, before it comes to an end, everything's shaking up. And part of the reason I think what I take away from the confirmations in the Vedic astrology, Western astrology, all these things, is that we are in a time that has been prophesied, but it's not the end of the world. It's the end of the world as we have known it in the patriarchy. It's the end of the leadership that only cares about money and resources and power and greed and not the rest of the planet and the rest of life. That excludes anyone who they feel is a threat. That life is coming to an end.
right.
But
And as
that you're shifting that big of a way of life, of course there's going to be devastation and some people who are against it, and then there's wars and there's all these things. But if you're meant to be here, you will be protected.
disruption is going to happen, and the Vedic astrology that I've read thus far I mean, simply puts it, in order for something new to begin, something old has to end.
Get through the cycle. We're in the
Yeah.
cycle. The end of that cycle, the real shift, just understand, like the real shift, we're getting little bright spots in this very tumultuous, fast moving, holy cow time. There are bright spots. There are moments that we get to celebrate. Time is being compressed. And we are going through a lot. If you can focus on your own path, your own journey, in context to the cycle that we're all going through together, looking at your own cycle that you're going through and making the most of it, and not letting the whole entire cycle of the US, the world, and the global geopolitical bullshit, if you can not let that affect what you're here for, what you're meant to do, and still walk forward with absolute confidence and peace and strength, you are going to rise up in ways that I don't think any of us imagine. That's exciting to me.
And it's fun. Yeah. And it should be.
Look, I've had to stay off social media, partially because every time, now that all the news stations are on like TikTok, every single day, I'm like, do you really have to be on TV? This is not a reality show, dude. I literally think that Ellison bought up all these stations so that he could serve the narrative of this Yahoo wants to be on TV. Benjamin's asking on TikTok, is anything catastrophic forecasted? There's always going to be catastrophes. I could say no, Ben, but here's the deal. What is not catastrophic to me could be completely catastrophic to one person who ends up in a car accident. So the way I want to frame this to you is, there are things that are coming. There are things that are going to happen. I don't think nukes are going to be allowed to be used. I think that we've got protection from that. That's what those orbs are about. They've been protecting us for years, right? They're not going to let nukes destroy the rest of the universe, number one. Number two, does that mean that people aren't going to be affected by bombs being dropped right now? There are bombs being dropped as we speak. People are being affected. They just went into Ecuador on some other thing. And then there's Iran, and Iran's dropping things in the countries that are surrounding. It's a mess in the Middle East right now. People have asked me, do I think it's coming to US soil? And as much as I want to say no, I don't really believe that it can or that it will right now. Not from the air. I'm gonna couch it that way. It's not coming from the air. They don't have the long range to be able to reach us. And so for that, we should be grateful from Iran. However, doesn't mean that there's not going to be other things going on. Y'all saw this weekend in Austin, there was a mass shooting.
Yep.
Where was it? The other one? I can't remember where the second one was. There was a second mass shooting the same night.
The nightclub. Yeah.
Yeah. At nightclubs. So like, that's catastrophic to the families that lost people, or to the people that were there that had to endure that trauma. There's no way around bad things happening in a world that is dual. It's duality. There's good things, there's not good things. It's what do you do with the events as they happen? Do you make them mean something about you and your entire life, or the entire existence of everything on this planet? Or do you take it in stride and understand things happen, certain events, certain experiences, and you learn from it and you move through it and you move on?
Yeah. And because it doesn't fit their narrative, the current administration doesn't want to talk about it, but the greatest threat to us as a nation is domestic terrorism, Christian nationalists, skinheads, all those people. It has nothing to do with outside influences. It has to do with, as Trump likes to say, the evil within. But that narrative doesn't fit their narrative.
How much damage did they do? But you know what? The missionaries and colonizers from Europe tons of damage, tons of catastrophes everywhere they've gone. But we've got businesses and corporations that hold power and can get away with shit that they should not be getting away with. The time for all of that is coming to an end overnight now. No, not at all. But over the course of the next 2 years, we're going to see their fall. But we're the ones that have to hold them accountable. It's not coming from the sky. Even this new wisdom available, it's not someone coming to save us. It's new wisdom available, new frequencies and energies available for us to use, to shift and change things on the planet.
We still have to take action.
It's like I told my client yesterday, either you leave or it's going to force you out. And that's kind of what I see overall happening this year and next year. Either we get on board with the right way of doing things, or the universe is, and you guys can tell by the weather, it's going to force us into alignment. Right?
Yeah. So as we, I guess, come to the end and try to wrap things up, first and foremost, we are not doing this on Saturday night, right? You got your weekends back.
Yeah, we're not doing it on Saturday.
Okay. So the next question becomes, does this work for the folks that are out there listening right now? Would a Wednesday night at this time be more amenable, or is there a better time and date that you guys want to suggest?
You guys okay with Wednesday nights for the UNKNOT episodes? Does it work for you? Midweek. Now, I know on social media, on TikTok especially, views are down. Live views are down. My live views are way down. I used to have 30, 50 people in my room, and it's just not happening. But one of my friends who's a medium, who used to have 300 people in his room, he's down to like 20 people. So I know it's not just me. Something's happening on that platform. But if Wednesday works for you guys, can you put it in the chat? If you guys don't care whether me and Andy show up and do this and deliver information and teachings and conversations, then let us know that too, because neither one of us want to waste our time. Like, I got things to do. My schedule is starting to pick up, and I don't have to do this, but if it's helpful for you guys, I want to do it. This is the way I look at it is, this is my community service for my community, which is you guys.
Right, and I always enjoy the conversations with Bernadette. So, but yeah, if you got, and if there's something you wanted to touch upon, certainly toss it up there. But if you want us to continue to do this, or no big deal, let us know that too. Yeah.
Lillian's saying, yeah, she'll stay up if she can in the middle of the night in the Netherlands.
That's commitment. She's a continent away.
Cruise, go Pat. Enjoy the cruise. We are honored that you would take the time to listen while you're on a cruise. How cool is that?
Wow, that's pretty darn cool. That's a vote of confidence that he's taking time out of his vacation to listen. Thank you, Pat. We appreciate that.
We do appreciate that.
We do.
Yeah.
I mean, when Bernadette and I first started discussing and she started coaching me, she broke me of this habit because I had a very fixation on time and wasting time, and the fact that the most important thing you can give to me is the gift of your time, because you never get it back once you give it to me. And it's still important to me. I'm not as fixated on it, but when anybody spends time with me, like you folks do this evening, I'm always appreciative of it. It's part of the process, and the fact that you've given us your time is always deeply appreciated. Thank you.
That sounds glorious right now. Glorious. Well, a few people have said, yeah, it works for them. So we will plan on next Wednesday for the UNKNOT show. That doesn't mean I'm not going to come live like on TikTok or whatever the rest of the week. Things are unfolding. I am busy though. Like, it's already Wednesday. Time is flying by. Tomorrow's Thursday night. That is my Charm Life program coaching night. Friday, I might be able to come on. We'll see. We'll see. We'll just see. Like, there's so much happening. I do want my weekends back just because my schedule is now picking up. My work schedule is picking up. Lillian's saying the teachings are worth my time. Definitely. We love that you trust us with your time. And I love that you trust me. I mean, with teaching you, you
Thank
know?
you, Lillian. We appreciate it.
Yeah. So as long as this is useful, and I'm only asking a lot lately because y'all, like, I am redoing everything about my business. I have to be careful. Coming back into work, I have to be careful that I don't overdo it like I did before I ended up in the hospital. I have to be careful that I don't overwork myself because I am one of those like workaholic types. Like that's just who I am. If something needs to get done, I'm going to stay up all night to finish it. If especially if it's something I enjoy, I get lost in that sort of thing. But I do have to be aware of it, and I don't want to do things that are just to do it. You know, this idea of doing a live call-in show came because I want people to have the opportunity to be able to get coached, get help. We've only had one person call in so far on the show since we've been running it. And I think this is our sixth episode. Is that right?
Yeah.
Sixth episode. And we haven't fully launched this as a podcast. I'm planning to do it, but I'm waiting for the right astrological window. The timing window's not there right now. We're tweaking, we're playing. Once I'm confident in the sort of outline of the show, that things are worth doing and we can build an audience, and then we'll do a podcast. You know, then we'll all list it with the podcast sites. I haven't done it yet because I'm like, we're still in the building phase of trying to figure out what you guys want, what you need. So your feedback's super important to us. Super important to us.
And welcome.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then again, if it's not something that's helpful to anyone, or there's only like a couple of you, then maybe we don't do it. You know, my thing on social media right now, especially TikTok, because the algorithm's a mess, because it's super censored. People I follow are getting knocked down every which way. If you speak truth, if you speak about anything, they don't want to put the stuff out there, right? They don't want to share it with the masses. They just want us watching cat videos. And it's frustrating to me to put as much time and effort into even doing content. I put out a video today. It got 200 views, and it took all day to get to 200, where I'm used to getting tens of thousands of views.
And they're doing that purposely because they want to filter it down and then sell you the opportunity to get more views. There's
a
trying
ton
to.
of shop videos, though. There's a ton of shop videos. It's turning into another Facebook where it's like for every
goodness.
post you get an ad.
I don't know how many ads for shoes, and
For
I
real.
did buy that recharger that you have in your car. It should be here, I think, tomorrow, because so that I've got one of those in my car too, so that I can recharge things should the grid go out. I finally did search around and got the legit one, the same one that you got. That's the quality one, because once again, even on TikTok, you've got to sift through all that TikTok shop stuff to find the legit businesses, not the scams that are there.
Here's off topic, but y'all should, like, if you guys buy things on Amazon, she ordered some TiVo shoes from Amazon, but she went to the outlets and she actually picked up a pair of TiVos from the store. She's like, oh my God, I love these shoes. The Amazon TiVo shoes came in. They're knockoffs.
Really?
Yeah.
Who was selling them?
I don't know, someone on Amazon, but she was like, I'm sending them back. She goes, they're uncomfortable. The leather and the stitching, nothing like the ones I bought in the store. She's like, how the hell are they selling knockoffs at full price?
Lack of quality control. All they care about are the numbers.
Yeah. So y'all, if you're ordering stuff on Amazon, and I know I've heard this from other people, even with supplements, if you're not buying it from the actual manufacturer's store, be careful, because there are knockoffs all over the place, and then you're wasting a bunch of money.
Yep.
You know, Andy and I were talking about, because a few of you have said things about wanting to break the Amazon subscription and stuff like that. And Andy and I were talking about this last night, because I was telling him he wasn't feeling good, certain supplements he should get. And I think, was it oregano oil that you asked why
Yeah.
they charge so much at Sprouts?
Yeah, I work at my side hustle is at Sprouts, and oil of oregano at Sprouts for some reason. The same bottle that you can find on Amazon for like $9.99 costs $30 at Sprouts.
So it's hard to want to give up your membership when, especially with stuff like that, supplements way less than if you buy them locally. And that's an unfortunate thing. That I don't know. I buy my oils like that, oregano oil, thieves oil. I buy them on Amazon because I've shopped them locally. They're out of this world expensive. And I'm like, why would I do that when I can get a bigger bottle and it's the same exact stuff?
Yeah.
And the one thing I will say about oregano oil is hard to mess it up. Oregano oil is oregano oil. It's hard to mess that up, but that stuff is potent. Every one of you needs to have oregano at home. Oregano
And let
oil.
me tell you something, since I've used it this week when I got sick, you can feel it working because it definitely burns.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a good burn, and I felt good afterwards. And actually, yeah, you recommended that I do a couple of drops in a glass of water, and I had a great sleep after I did that.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited. I'm excited too. I don't know how. It's funny how in my chart it says like March is the start of coming back into work. And I had a random person reach out to me and book a consultation for a biomagnetism session. And she happens to be from Colombia, right? She lives locally though. And she was studying under the Goy system. Dr. Goyce is who founded biomagnetism therapy, and his sons took over his school and practice. I'm of that lineage. She wanted someone from that lineage. Dr. Garcia used to study under Goyce and worked with Dr. Goyce. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not from the Goyce school. She goes, no, but you're still from the same lineage. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, why do you want to come to me if you're becoming a biomagnet? She goes, because I got a bunch of stuff going on and I need to be worked on. I'm like, oh, so funny. She found me somehow, Google probably, but there's one thing I learned from looking at her conditions, and she hadn't put it together. She has interstitial cystitis. Do you guys know what that is? It's a bladder issue, kidney issue. It's a creates like pressure, scarring. Have to go to the bathroom all the time. Weak pelvic floor, lots of stuff. But then we started to go down her symptom list when I did her intake yesterday or the other day. And she's starting to talk about other things. And I said, do you know what Epstein-Barr is? She was like, I think I've heard of that. Not Guillain-Barre, not that. Epstein-Barr. So I said, write it down, go look it up. So chances are that's part of what's going on with you. But then I started to do the deeper dive. When did all of this stuff start? Because she's been to all the doctors, all of them, and they can't figure out what to do for her to make it better. She goes, that's why I went into the biomagnetism therapy. I said, okay, cool. She goes, plus they're from Colombia. I'm from Colombia. Right on. Let me ask you a question. Did you ever have COVID? And did you get a vaccine? Yes, she did. And yes, she did. And lo and behold, she starts to give me her history and goes, you know what? Everything got worse after the shot. In fact, the second shot, I almost died, had to be hospitalized. And I never put it together. My doctors never put it together that after getting COVID, that's when all of this IC stuff started. So me being the database researcher that I am, y'all know I have a database. I was right. The IC typically Epstein-Barr is an underlying driver. The other main pathogens that I usually look for and treat, they're all overlapping. But the reason I'm sharing this with you guys is because if you did have the vid, there's a form of interstitial cystitis that affects your urinary tract, your bladder, and your kidneys that researchers are now diving into that came out of COVID. Yeah. Yeah. And got worse if you did have the vaccine. Because she was like, I have hearing loss too. And I was like, did that happen to start during she's like adding all these symptoms. When you first come to see me, the very first session, I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at everything. And I'm going to work on as much as I possibly can comfortably with you during that first session. That's why my initial sessions are a little pricey, because it takes a long time to go through every single organ system and everything else and pathogen. And I want to make sure that I set the stage that first session. As long as the body can handle the detox, it's going to follow. But she's like, let's do it. Okay. When I went through her history, it was very interesting to find all of these things. And this is the difference, you guys. This is why, like, when you work with someone who has gifts like mine, right, that are clairvoyant, I trust my intuition as I'm talking to people. If spirit's starting to lean me towards ask about COVID, I'm going to ask about COVID. Then I'm going to ask about the vaccine. And then I'm going to start looking at where are the patterns tied here, right? Where are they tied? Super important. And the picture that came out, I'm super excited to work on her tomorrow, because I think I'm going to finally be able to help her get some relief after it's been going on since 2020. So we're talking 6 years. 6 years. Multiple doctors. No one's been able to resolve it. And it's only gotten worse. And she's lost her hearing. But that hearing loss with the interstitial cystitis and the kidney problems and bladder problems directly tied to having the vid.
Amazing.
But guess what? The research isn't from here.
Yeah.
The research is from out of the country. And when you come to me, I literally am going to take your history of what we're dealing with, put the pieces together, find the patterns, and then go look at the medical research that's being done outside of the country and what they're already piecing together.
And if you're wondering why Bernadette does what she does, the way she explained that and the way she lit up, describing how she's going to be able to help her client tomorrow, that's what she does it for. That's why she does what she does. And she does the deep dives because she's here to help you. And there are no dumb questions.
No, we all want to feel better. We all want to do better. We all want better lives. You know, it's also why I don't just focus on mindset. I don't just focus on high performance. I don't just focus on getting people through trauma. I focus on all of that. Plus I focus on the body, like all of it. So that you are a complete person with one life that has many aspects to it. We got to work on the whole thing. The whole thing. You shouldn't have to go to a ton of different people and specialists to get help if someone's capable. And I am capable. And I love doing it. And I think that's kind of where it's going. It's so funny because in the world of online, everyone's told people like me to niche down, pick one lane, only one lane. You can't help everyone, but I can. So I never niched down. And guess what? Now that's actually working to my benefit, you know, but I do get excited. Also because she's 70 years old and she's a yoga teacher at 70 years old. She's like vibrant and all of that. And she's like, I want my life back. And I'm thinking,
great stories too.
We're going to get you your life back. Because that's how I felt with Jarrett, right? When Jarrett came to have me work with him, 112 hospital stays. Crazy. And they still couldn't figure out what was going on with him. He got so dang skinny. He was emaciated. So, yeah. I'm sorry. I get all excited. Bernadette's an amazing person. Lillian, I love you. you guys make it so that I want to do this stuff. Like, if it weren't for the amazing clients that I have had throughout the last 26 years, I don't know if I'd be able to keep going. I questioned it big time after looking at my bank account and how much effort it was going to take to reboot my business and get everything back online. Once my brain started to come back and my energy started to come back, and it's not even fully where it was before I got sick. But the reality is, it's like, how do I put this? I don't hear you guys calling out to me in the middle of the night. Like, you're not messaging me in the middle. Some people are. I ignore those. But I hear it in my meditations. Does that make sense? Like, I hear the call from people. I can hear what people are praying for, what people are wanting. And that does direct where spirit leads me to show up and how to show up and what to talk about in these things, in my live streams. It's because of you guys. It's because of Andy too. Andy's encouraged me through my whole little journey. And it's actually kind of fun having someone else on the screen and me not having to do it all by myself after all these years of doing it by myself. It's kind of fun.
It's fun. It is. It's totally fun, and it's fun to interact. And hopefully, as you say, we'll have other people jump on here too and expand the conversation and make this a wide ranging community where we can compare notes. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
So we'll see. If you guys have ideas for next week's show, things that you want to learn, please drop it in the comments, or send a message, private message me. You can email me, Bernadette@BernadetteGold.com. Super simple. And let us know, because we'll build a show around it. And then if you want to come up next week and you're like, but I need the link ahead of time, just tell me and I'll send you the link. Right? We'll make it work. I'm excited. Yeah. Anywho, all right. If any of this makes sense to you guys, if any of this made you think about things, you want to reach out, go to my website. Links in the bio. Go to my website. Go check out what's available. Maybe more Vedic astrology stuff, important stuff to look for in our charts. So I think all of your Vedic astrology chart is important. I'm not a Vedic expert. I'm good at understanding systems though. And because I have astrology software, I can tweak the software to do whatever I want it to do. As far as what to look for, honestly, it depends on where you're at in your life right now. Do you
And
have
as you said before,
your own chart, Angelica? Like full chart? Because that's the question, right? Anything that you're struggling with, it's going to show you in the chart why you're struggling with it. Truly. Anything that we're going through on this planet, it's going to show in the chart. She's saying, yeah. What's a D1 chart? Huh? Hold on. I gotta put my glasses on to see the comments.
it says D1. I have no idea what that means.
What do you mean D1? D1 chart. I don't know what that is.
Day one chart from the very beginning? I don't know.
Do I look at transits? You do want to look at your transits because it's within the transits. And this happens in Western astrology too. It's the transits and the cycles of where the planets are moving through your chart that is going to explain what's going on. But yeah, I'll just leave it there. Every part of your chart's super important to look at. How the planets are interacting with the movements of the planets and how they're hitting your chart in what house. What does that house rule? Does it get along or does it not get along? Is it causing some sort of conflict? Is it causing a lesson? How long's the cycle going to last? All of that's the stuff you look at. So D1 is the most important. I look at dashas as they're coming through. So that's within the transits. What does it look like? And that will tell you what's trying to be kind of pulled out of your life and your soul work. So if you're into it, God bless you. Dive in. I get nerdy about that stuff, and I can look at charts for hours upon hours, and then I have to stop because my questioning. I can question forever. But anywho, all right. Thanks for joining us tonight, you guys. Really appreciate it. Andy, I know you haven't been feeling good. Y'all, thank Andy for showing up tonight because he took
You
a
know,
couple days off work.
but yeah, I'm feeling infinitely better because I think the energy really helped me. And when you're in a room that's nothing but positive energy, it transfers, and I feel a whole lot better after this. So thank you very much for the positive vibes and the positive energy.
Well, we're glad you're here. For the rest of you guys, it's Wednesday. We've gotten over the hump. Let's go into Thursday intentionally. Start your day. God, give me the eyes to see, the ears to hear, a heart to understand all you wish me to know. Help me co-create a life of love, joy, and compassion for myself and others. Start the day that way. I guarantee you, your whole entire life will change from that point forward because you are giving permission to source energy to direct your steps and take the blinders off. Enjoy. Be blessed. Be a blessing. Good night.